So we are going to be creating an API. Let's create an API for the movie API. So in the homework, you were told to install a new template. .NET new -ist templates.web.api. So what this does, this gives us a new template. Kind of like how last week we did .NET new console, blah, whatever. Our template that we were using was console. So we created a new console application that was built around that template for a console application. This will give us a new template that is for APIs. So whenever we run this, what does it actually give us? Well, it should say that we installed version like 1.0.4, something like that, 1.2.4. And it lists out all the templates that you have installed on your computer. It's a lot. You should have all but like 3 or 4 of these.
We should install inside our folder.
You can install it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yep. Okay. So now these are all my boilerplates where I can start. These are the different versions of like app, pretty much. So I can make a new console application. I can make a new web application. I can make an Angular, a Vue, a React. I can make a API. I don't know what a Garcia console application is. It's a great question, but I can do it. That's the important part. I think that's when I was messing around making new templates. That was their demo one. So yeah, so we are going, so today, yes, eventually we're going to be hitting SDG React template, but today we're doing SDG API template. So how do we do that? So just like how we would do, just how before last week we do .NET new console dash blah, 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 whatever our name was. Instead of console, we would do SDG API dash N and then movie API, whatever we call it. So I'm going to do that. This is going to run my template for me. CD movie API, blah, blah, blah. Ta-da. So questions about, well, brought up about what this gives us. This already has NAD framework added and installed, and the DB context already scaffolded and created and everything like that.
That's what we're going to use.
Yep. So you know how like Monday and yesterday it was like, I can't make this. I got a half hour of steps to make, but I don't know what the step order to do. I mess up the order, things are going red and it's crashing and burning. Don't gotta worry about that now. But what I do have to do, I have to go in and change my connection string. So I'm going to open this up. If I come in here, see it already has my DB context in here called database context. There's a little bit more going on. But see this warning right here, be sure to update the current connection string to point to the correct database. That means we need to take that connection string, that address for our project, that address where our database lives, and make sure that we're pointing to the correct database. This is pointing to the database. Yep, code dot is like universal. This is pointing to the database SDG template. But we really don't want that, right? We want to point it to our database. Our database in this case is our movie database. Movie database. With that, I can get rid of the warning. Ready for new stuff. So now I'm ready to add my models, I'm ready to add my migrations, I'm ready to add my controllers, I'm ready to do all that fun stuff. That's project setup.
That's a question.
So let's check in. We have Savannah, then we have Jordan.
Okay. It's showing me like something is wrong in my computer right now. I have a line, red line everywhere. What I mean?
So click the dollar, click the bell.
Yeah, go to the command line.
That's just,
Never
so.
mind. The PowerShell
Yep, PowerShell.
You ran,
Run .NET restore. CD into it.
CD.
so you ran this, right? The .NET.
Yep,
you
just,
run the
.NET
CD
restore.
template in your terminal.
.NET.
Okay, and then you run
.NET. You're missing a T.
Oh,
.NET SPG, yeah,
restore.
whatever it is. you call
Yeah,
it.
I ran,
Yes, if you have a whole bunch of regs showing up here, like if it's like
Okay, so that's.
like the shining up in here, like yeah, run .NET restore.
Now you can use
You're
the
doing this right now, you're saying?
by afterwards.
It might be helpful with all.
Like,
Whatever you want.
okay.
Just to make sure the environment's set up correctly, Andrew.
And that
I'm
movie
doing this as
database,
my vacation home.
just create that name.
We haven't graded it yet, but I just pulled that out of there.
Very well.
But I haven't finished the original,
That's
so
fine.
but that's okay, I'll just shut down it.
So we can equals Safari Vacation,
Yeah.
whatever the name of it is.
Yep.
Okay. Or, yeah, animals, or,
I have to
I gotta
put
figure
those
that. Is there,
in.
oh, sorry, not the databases, because we can just make them kind
We're
of.
gonna have new before SDG.
So just like list your database.
No, list my databases,
So
like all
.NET,
day, like, 'cause where did, like,
SVG,
you can kind of do it anywhere, right? 'Cause PG, okay.
Hey,
That's,
those are all my databases, which is not a lot.
SDG.
you can do,
Well,
have you been doing cleanup? Or is
I-
PGCLI new?
I actually reinstalled Postgres like Monday.
So, can we start from the beginning, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, sure. So
Start with the .NET view.
Yep, so the first thing I did is I ran this command, .NET new -I, blah, 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 to install the new template. This gives me access to actually create new SDG verified APIs. So I can run this command anywhere, and I only have to run it once. So this is a one-time. This is like npm install -global app. Remember we ran that the very first day? Because we all remember the very first day very well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? I do. And so we never run that once.
Oh, should we have been a movie app?
You know, you can be wherever you want.
And then we CD into.
We haven't CD'd it into anything yet.
Okay.
So Jordan, you look like you're.
Yeah, I tried doing PGCLI-L just to confirm the name of mine, so I wasn't pointing to a non-existent database. I said I could not connect to the server. There's no such file. Or do I need to be in? Like, I mean, you did. That can be a later problem. Yeah, but it's weird.
Does PGCLI work? Like just PGCLI by itself?
Dot? Or
Just by itself.
I don't think that does anything without an extra thing.
It does actually.
So
It
yeah,
connects
same,
to it.
same area.
Same area.
Still does not exist.
Is it starting? You know what? We'll look at it after this.
Yeah, that's
So after we've done this, now we can use the template. So now we're gonna CD and we're gonna go to wherever we want to put our repositories.
Hold on. It's also-
Okay. This command is in your homework. Also, right there.
Are you want to hassle the Ruby folks with it? Okay, well, look.
Can't tell them our secrets.
True.
They did make their own Ruby channel. Did you see that?
They did.
Yeah. Ruby Gang
Do we see
13. Yeah, I do. I go ahead and check it out every now and again.
But they can't see our group chat, right?
Nope.
We've got a secret code.
We got cool comments.
It was story for another time.
Okay, so then after
Yep.
that,
So after we've added our template, we're going to go to wherever we want to put it. So for me, it's I want to put in my lecture examples, not color picker. I don't know why that's up there, but it is. .NET, week 8. I want to go to wherever I want to put it. Now I'm going to run .NET new, SDG API, and I'm going to name it something cool. That is Slovakian. It's not.
Oh, what did you do?
Okay, I'm like,
Yeah, so
do
that'd
we
be-
have to do the CD
It
movie
has to be,
API,
oh,
or is that later?
That's later.
What did you just do?
So .NET new SDG API dash N.
Whatever the done.
What, and then the N is going to be whatever the name is. So like for me, it was movie API. For y'all, for your homeworks, it's probably going to be along the lines of like Safari API, Safari Adventure, something like that, or just Safari.
So basically, it was kind of like what we just did, but they you put a name instead.
Yep. The one we just did with the -I is installing the template. This command is using the template.
It's really not much at all.
Yeah, once you get the first 2 words, it's
So that's a difference.
it's very different.
So now we CD into it.
Correct. Now we CD into it. CD movie API. And to avoid us seeing The Shining, we're going to do .NET restore. And that's going to go in and install all the packages that are already installed.
Is that the same thing as clicking the restore button?
The pop-up window.
Yeah. Or you can go to the pop-up window and click the restore button. Either or. I need to work out that bug. I'm telling it to run .NET restore after you make it, but it's not for some other reason.
Bash CD.
Software.
So,
No one's good at it.
so we can run the code.
Yeah. So now we made the project. If we do an LS, we're going to see all of this stuff that we want. And we can open up code dot and be on our way.
And we're changing the temp,
What?
and we're changing the name and the, to make sure it's pointing to,
Yep, whatever database that you want it to point to. So I haven't created this movie database yet. But I'm going to create it. Wait, it's not there. Create TV movie.
Should we do this PGCLI one? Or L, whatever it is? No, we
Nope.
shouldn't follow you anymore.
Nope.
That's just if you don't remember what your database is
Yeah.
called.
PGCLI-L list out what databases I have on my machine. Mhm.
so for those of us who are on PC, so we've been doing the .NET, so now if we want to do the PGCLI, we have to switch over to Ubuntu.
Do you find that as a hindrance at all developing?
What?
So like this, well, more of the, I mean, I guess if you have multiple screens and stuff, you can have Ubuntu and
No. Whenever I'm like really developing stuff, I usually have like 3 or 4 terminals open doing stuff. Yeah.
I'm probably just one, but within time. I mean, I don't know. I've seen like and have created new tabs and stuff, but like it's just so confusing.
Yeah, it's one of those like once if you ever get like multiple monitors, like you'll explode out over everything. But then like once you start working more on a laptop only, you'll kind of narrow your focus.
So what if I don't see mine?
But we haven't actually made it yet. Because you run create DB.
No.
Should I?
So run create DB.
Do I have to do that?
What about
Create DB Safari Adventure.
Should I put my user and my password?
Or should we call it Safari something else?
I'd probably call this Safari API database, just to kind of differentiate from your database that you had the other time.
Do I have to do that pseudo service, right?
Right.
Yeah, it looks like it's running.
Okay, so then just create DB.
I'm just gonna call it Safari. This is coming in.
Yeah, so this may seem like a lot of steps, like kind of like what's going on. But good news is that you don't have to do this once per project. That's usually like the first day is like getting this kind of going. And after a while, it'll kind of get second nature. You will mess up a couple times. Everyone does. But you'll get it.
Vacation.
So, environmental woes aside, let's build an API. That sound good? I want to build 2 API endpoints. Actually, 3 API endpoints. I'm taking the time to do that, I don't care. The first API endpoint, I want to get all my movies. Okay? My second API endpoint, I want to get 1 movie. And my third API endpoint, I want to create a movie. So I want to post a movie. So I want to do the whole gambit of reading and creating. I'm going to come out updating or deleting me. We can hit those tomorrow. But for today, those are 2 things that I want to do. So like any good developer, I always plan out and think about what I want to do before I actually start doing anything. At least I should plan stuff out. So I'm going to erase this on my broken whiteboard. And I said 3 endpoints, right? Yeah. I'm going to have a get /API /movies. I'm going to have a get /API /movies /some ID. Then I'm going to have a post /API /movies as well. Now, what do we want to pass it to create a movie? Well, probably a title, right? What else about a movie do we care about?
Rated.
Rating?
The year it was made.
Yep, year released. And that's
Detail.
director. That's good for me. We got 4 things. Beyond 4 is usually not good. So now how do we pass data here? Well, this is going to be inside of the body as JSON. So we'll have an endpoint that accepts JSON inside the body, but we'll get to that in a moment. Now, before we actually write any code, I always want to see, hey, what's my return values? So I'm planning out, hey, what's my inputs? What's my outputs? So what do I expect here? I expect an array of objects, right? And each object is going to be a movie. So it's going to have these properties, plus an ID, right? This one's going to be a movie. Right? What's the return value for this endpoint? This one's a little bit harder. So if I'm creating a movie, if I'm going, hey Andrew, create for me a movie that has Jaws, that was released in 1980, and director was Steven Spielberg. Its rating was surprisingly only PG.
Cool. True or false? It created.
So a status of like, was it created or not? So that's the first thing that we should return. Thank you for stepping up on that too. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but thank you for stepping up. It was, so that wasn't created. That's going to come back to us as our HTTP status code. Remember how we talked about the status codes of like 200, 400, 404, 401, 500, 302, 300, stuff like that? So we are going to return at least a 200 and a good RESTful API will return to you what was updated. So whenever I create my movie, I actually should get the 200 and the created movie back at me with the ID.
So like 200 JAWS.
Yep, so like 200, here's your new movie. Here's JAWS with the ID of 47.
That's like a confirmation. That
What?
will be the confirmation you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I got it plenty up, and everything starts to work. So now let's bring it over here and start doing it. I like that idea. So,
Wow. You didn't put the gross for the year, for the first. What
Year?
what it gross for the year, like.
oh yeah,
stuff like
yeah,
that.
we could add more properties
Okay.
if we wanted to. So yeah. So do we want to make our database first, or do we want to make our controllers first? Controllers? Okay. There's no wrong answer to that. It's how you want to work. Let's make our controllers first. So on our controllers, we're going to come here, new C# class. Our endpoint movies controller.cs. Where'd it go? Wow. So we'll side by side it again just so we see what we have to add. Preview. There are ways to generate controllers based off your models. We'll get to that tomorrow. For today we're going to create our controllers from scratch. So we see what's going on. So we have our movies controller. It is going to inherit controller base. Controller base. Make sure we're in the same namespace. We're going to add our attributes, route, API/controller, API controller. All right, and so now this is our very first controller.
So for our homework, our controller would be animals, right?
How did you get animals?
Just reading the homework.
Well, what about inside the homework? Who gave you that?
Create get animals endpoint that returns all animals you have seen.
Yep, so the URL is /animals. So you're going to need a controller for animals. So we ready for our first endpoint now? So our first endpoint, let's start at the top of the list. A get. Gets are usually easy to start with. So let's do get all movies. So it's going to be a get, HTTP get, public, action result, And it's going to be get all movies. Now this is going to return to us inside of here. We need to query the database. We need to return the results. And that's about it. But to make sure that our controller is working, let's just return something right now. And really, that thing that we want to return is an array of movies, right? So let's bump up our return type to be not just an action result. It's going to be an action result of an enumerable of movies. Movie. Going to need to use our using statements. So we haven't made the movie model yet, right? But now, well, we kind of need to. So let's come over here. And inside of a new folder, new folder called models. Let's make a new C# class, and we'll call it movie.cs. And now this movie is going to be our entity framework model. So this will be the table structure of what we want to make. So we're going to have prop int ID, prop string title, prop string rating, prop string director. Right? Over here, using those, and we're just going to return a new list of movie that has one new movie, title equals Jaws, has a second new movie where title equals Goodfellas. Is it cool like that, or is it Fellows?
Fellas.
It's fellas.
It's Fellas?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so.
It's also
I had one word.
Technically one word. You happy now? Right. So I have a one endpoint. It's not going to my database yet. This is just, do we have an endpoint set up that we can get that returns an array of movies? So I could go to Chrome for this, right? I could go to Chrome and go localhost 5001/API/movies and get this, but I'm going to use another tool that we kind of hovered around for a little bit called Postman. Does anyone remember Postman? What is Postman?
So
Let's
what
view.
can let you know is that the AIPs work?
Yeah, so it lets you know how APIs work.
Yes.
So what do you mean by that?
It's, they have a lot of traffic. You can see it's working. Oh, and also
Well,
it's,
what's in it?
and also you can see if it's working in your Explorer and your browser. I don't know if it's that easy for you.
Yeah. Do you want to add to that? Because it's exploring an API, using an API, seeing what's inside an API. Postman at its core is a special kind of browser. And that's all it is. So you know a web browser, right? Like Chrome, Firefox, stuff like that. All it's doing is sending a GET request to a server, and it's rendering out results that we get back. At its core, that's really what a web browser is. Postman is a specialized web browser that's geared towards developers to interact with APIs. So what that means is not only can we send GET requests, we can change the type of requests. So Chrome by nature can only send GET requests. Postman can send any type of request to the URL. Chrome will render out into a non-developer user-friendly, here's your pretty HTML and CSS page. This will just show us the HTML. This won't render anything. This will just show us the response.
So does Postman use Axios as well?
I don't know what they use under the hood, but it's like Axios. It's doing what Axios does, except more GUI, more user interfacey.
So do you have a standalone application or is it a Chrome extension?
It started off as a Chrome extension, but they've since moved to a standalone application. I think they're recommending the standalone application. This is the standalone application. So I'm going to zoom this in. Can you all see that in the back?
Yeah, we're good.
So if I go here, localhost 5001 /API/movies, I got to get. And if I send this, I could not get any response. Because I'm missing a semi, I'm missing a colon. Can I hide this? Ah. Aha. So yeah, I did my GET request to /API movies, which is my movies controller. And we see that I got back Jaws and Goodfellas. How are we feeling with that?
So it didn't have a rating, so anything that it doesn't have information on.
Yeah, because we didn't give it any information, I just kind of feel like,
Oh,
hey,
okay.
give me 2 movies, Jaws and Goodfellas, just to prove that we can get a array back.
Okay.
Why isn't it, why are the IDs 0?
Because I didn't set any values for the IDs.
I thought those were, just did it itself.
Yeah, we haven't touched the database yet.
Yeah.
We haven't added these to the database. These aren't actually in Postgres. If I go to my movies database, they don't exist yet. These are only hard-coded C# values.
So inside,
No, you're right. Go, you're good.
okay, I was gonna say, so inside C#, if you wanted to take care of an instance where like maybe you couldn't reach the database, you could have an if statement. It's like if it returns like this error, then just give them and it could be like,
yep.
Instead of Jaws or Goodfellas, it's like, hey, we failed, sorry, get over it.
Yep.
Go watch Weekend at Bernie's or something.
Yeah. Next week we're going to build a full stack app together, like all week, and we'll see situations like that where it's like, oh, I need to either return data or an error message. I need to do this or that, and a lot of that logic is handled inside of your controller. So now, do we want to build out? Do we want to mock and stub out the rest of our endpoints? And then we'll add our database after that. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So what's the next one that we want to mock out? This one.
Yeah,
Our next baby step is get one. So this is also going to be a get, right? So by what we know, HTTP get, HTTP get, public action result. No one's asked me what that is yet.
HTTP.
No, the action result.
What's an action result?
Well, that's a great question. What is an action result? An action result is a fancy term for a response. And particularly an HTTP response. So you know how responses have like headers, a status code, and a body? The action result is kind of the wrapper for all of that. And the only thing that we have to actually pass it then is whatever we want inside the body. So like for this one up here, we're not passing it an HTTP status code of 200 with the headers of where we came from, of that it was successful, and the body as a JSON. We're just literally going, hey, here's our stuff. Convert this into a proper response, and then serve it up. And we're saying, hey, we're giving it an action result, a response that is a list of movies. Hey, this one gives us an HTTP response that is a movie.
So you give it the parameters and it does everything for you.
Yep, we just say, hey, this is the response, this is the response type, do it. Yeah. It's Nothing magical. There's no reason to overcomplicate things. They're complicated enough, trust me. So I want to get one movie, right? And then here, return. We'll just do new movie. What's someone's favorite movie?
I like ET.
E.T. Cool. Title equals E.T. And there we go. How do we feel about this? Did not sit well? Because this shouldn't sit well.
Because it's not a new endpoint, right?
Yeah, so we have two get endpoints in the same controller that have the same URL. But in our design, you notice that our URLs have our endpoints have two different URLs, right? This one's /movies, this one's /movies/ its ID. So we need to further define this route's URL. We can do that here inside of our get. We can go, hey, this thing also takes an ID. And now we've parameterized our URL. Remember in React Router how we had parameters? Same kind of thing, we're parameterizing our URL. And we're saying, hey, we're getting the ID.
So it's kind of like in HTML where you can have multiple classes but only specific IDs.
Correct. Routes have to be unique. Because if I have two routes that are at /API/movies, which one do I go to?
Yeah.
And it will tell you whenever you go to build it. It's like, hey, wait a minute. I have an error where I don't know where I'm going.
So how does the two work in conjunction with each other so you can get the result that you're looking for?
So this one will give me all my movies.
Mhm.
So if you go back to the movies project that y'all did,
Mhm.
this would be used for like the homepage.
Okay.
But this would be used whenever I click on
Ah, okay.
You don't have to do any kind of like $ nonsense with that ID and the parentheses up there.
it. Just the squiggles.
It has to be the same name, or can I use another different name?
What do you mean? Where?
You put it with the ID, and you declare also ID over there.
Yep, this parameter has to match this parameter right here. So let's test this endpoint now. So this endpoint, I should be able to go to /3 or 4, pick my favorite. And see, now we're getting one movie back, where it's an object, its title's ET, and its ID is whatever we pass it. That's how it's currently set up.
So you have to give it its ID.
Yeah, but that's just for now. Whenever we get to real databases, we'll be doing that. But that's just saying, hey, can I pass this thing a value through the URL? And I'm doing that. So like I changed it to 12 and now it's 12. And I'm doing it because, hey, I'm saying this exists at get/movie/ID. My ID is an integer, it's a number. And I'm using it just like any other parameter. At the end of the day, an endpoint is just a function. Yeah, so you know the functions that we learned about like week 2? That's all an endpoint is. It has parameters, ins, and it has a response, outs.
So if you're writing something, say for example you're doing a script, how does that play into functional? Like how do you make it functional? Is it always functional at the end or in the beginning?
So an API by itself, sitting by itself, isn't that functional.
Okay.
But if you put a React app on top of that, that's calling your various endpoints, then you get functionality.
So that's that. Okay.
Yes. Pretty much, we're building Lego blocks. We're building new things for our React app to use. Jordan.
Why the 4? Because you haven't messed with the database at all. Right now, if you just put in like Taka, would ET still pop up because it's something in the value of the ID?
So if I try, so I picked 4 randomly.
Yeah.
I could also pick like, your favorite number is, we've had this conversation before.
13,
13,
21,
that's
one of
right.
those two.
13, I could have picked 13 and it'll still work.
Mhm.
And right now it's just echoing back stuff back to me. But great question, Jordan. If I do taco,
Because it's,
It's not an initialized.
Now,
right? We're getting a red flag should be going up, right? And everyone's kind of doing it at the same time. What happens? I get a nice error.
tacos are always
we get to
valid.
see a status code now.
Yeah, right? We get a status code 400.
What if you
Whoopsies.
put taco 101, it's gonna take the 101 and remove the taco.
Will
I'm
it?
still gonna treat it as a string.
No,
Oh, okay.
this ain't JavaScript. So yeah, like this is some of the built-in error messaging that we get. See, our status code our status code is no longer 200. Our status code is 400. Bad request. Fool, you don't know what you're doing.
Now is it 200, 400, and stuff like that, just Judas set standards?
Yes. Yes, there is a whole big thing, HTTP status codes. Do I have a browser open? Aha. Yeah, HTTP status codes. My favorite, I believe, is 419. Yeah. Sorry, 418.
I'm a what?
418.
I'm a teapot, but why?
Why do we care if you're a teapot? It was actually an April Fool's joke that they did at one point. Which, April Fool's Day is coming up. It's like my least favorite holiday because of stuff like this. The internet just goes ablaze and it's, ugh. Like those Amazon Dash buttons, you know? Those started off as a April Fool's joke.
Really?
Yeah, they introduced it on April 1st. They're like, this is ridiculous. Why would anybody want this? But then people wanted it.
It
Oh,
blew
like,
up, yeah.
oh, to like buy like.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing. Why would anyone do that?
yeah, it was an April Fool's
Oh,
joke.
how
They're
funny.
discontinuing
I didn't
it
tell
now.
my dad.
What is
Good.
What, too many toddlers are just
Yeah.
buying a
This
year's
made no
supply?
Ooh,
sense.
yes.
420 enhance your calm? Twitter, what is that?
Yes, let's read it.
Oh,
Yeah,
God
it
damn
will
it, Twitter.
enhance your calm.
I'm wondering. Yeah, when the client is being raped.
Oh, wow.
Demolition Man.
Yeah. So like, as you notice, like the 300 series,
Too many requests.
like there's only 9. So that still leaves like 99 or 91 other 300 codes for you to use. These are the standards and the best practices, but you can make your own. You can say, hey, in my system, if I give you a 420, enhance your calm, like that means something special to me. That's how I made a distributed system for property analysis, and that's how I kind of communicated what was going on was with various status codes.
That 403 is rare but serious.
403 forbidden.
Yeah, like you're denied access, blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. I had that once when someone's site got hacked.
Why are there 2 cursors? That's true. Oh, it's because the one that's zoomed in and the one that's not.
Yeah, it's just taking its sweet old time to.
Or no, that's it, unauthorized. That's the one that I got, unauthorized, because they were hacked.
Like
Mhm.
how 420 and 429 are apparently the same, but they felt the need to add a joke.
Yeah, it's Twitter.
So you could just write
Yes.
that?
Yeah, you can create your own status codes. And then over in your React app, you can listen for different status codes. So, just another way to kind of communicate API, communicate meaning between messages.
And more. You're good to go.
I was gonna say 402 payment required, that'd be something like point of sale stations and stuff.
Yep.
big ones?
Yep.
That's awesome.
So like if I had a course online that was $20 an hour or something like that, and you try to access it, but you're not in my account, you're not a registered paid user, my server could return a 402 payment required, and then my React app inside of my Axios can say, hey, did you return a 402? Oh, I need to display, you need to pay this.
Okay. So can different APIs have different things for the same number? Ooh.
Yeah, so like this one is I'm pretty sure I have used 507 someplace else. That doesn't mean that. Because 500 is errors. So like, I know I've returned error messages that don't fall in line with these. Now you should never overwrite the standard ones, pretty much like 404, 200, stuff like that. But like anything that's not listed here is pretty much fair game.
I read 305 use proxy as use pony.
I did too.
And I was like, what?
So you can make one.
Yeah, you can make
You
Here.
need a pony to access this website.
Yeah.
Upload a picture of you and your pony, and our board will review it.
You should make that like, I don't know, what's a good pony number?
Very
I don't know, what is a good
Yeah,
pony
I don't
number?
333.
Yeah, 333, you need a pony. So like that's the thing.
What's a good pirate number?
Is it primary?
What's a good pirate number?
Oh, pirate number? I don't know. I should know
Something
this.
with a 7. Like
Yeah,
7 C's.
7 C's.
It's just error code.
What's
7.
7C hex to decimal?
Oh my gosh.
124.
There we go.
HTTP code 124.
I'll use that for something.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Informational.
Yes. See, it's stuff like that. Stuff like that is where like jokes will start to come up like I'm a teapot and handshake home, and it's fun. Anywho, so I got my status codes, I got my action result, I have that going on. That's all fine and dandy. Now I need to worry about my post. Right? So my post, it's going to be an HTTP post, public action results. We're returning a movie. Create movie. So now we need to figure out how we're getting data. This is how we pass data via the URL. But here we're passing data in from the body, right? Not from the URL like we are here. We're passing it in the body. We've done this already, right? With Minesweeper, whenever we created a new game, we passed it its difficulty. So now we're going to say, hey, I'm making an endpoint that accepts JSON data inside of the body. So what does that look like for us? Well, we say, hey, look at the body and find me a movie, and let's store it as new movie or movie to add. Yeah. And I want to return a new movie that has the title, just the title because I'm lazy, the movie to add dot title. In reality, this would go to the database for me, stuff like that. Why are you still yelling at me? Oh, public. There you go. Public, not partial. So I'm saying, hey, check out my body. Inside the body of the request coming in, there's going to be a JSON object that has the same structure as our movie model. So create for me a new movie model, and then ideally add to a database, but for right now, create another new movie and give it and return that.
What is it, the body of?
The body of the request coming in.
And that's like the promise at the end of the Axios request?
That's the second parameter in the Axios.
Yeah, okay, so where you're
Yeah.
changing
not-
state around, yeah. Well, it can be also just running some sort of function. But it's basically from body. Body's the request in JavaScript.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So you're presuming they've done it correct.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is assuming that like whoever's building your the React app with the front end knows what a movie should look like, knows that it's called title, rating, year, and director, and can pass it in correctly. That's where Swagger comes into play. Bless you. Where's my swags? If I go to localhost 5000, it'll bring up my Swagger and actually says, hey, here's my endpoints. Here's my post. Here's my parameters that go in the body. Here's the stuff that I'm looking for. And here's an example of what I'll get back. I can change this with property stuff. We'll get there. But for right now, like, this is pretty much like straightforward what I want to know, right? What are my ins and what are my outs? So let's run this over in Postman. So we go to Postman. I'm going to change my get to a post. Make sure my URL is correct. And I'm going to go to the body and say, hey, I'm going to pass you JSON. And title equals what's someone else's favorite movie?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, that's so long. Pirates of the Caribbean.
Car. Pirates of the car.
For right now, that's all we'll pass it, but eventually we'll get to pass it everything else. So now whenever I send this, I get back my 200 OK. Where's my bar? And here's my new movie, way down here. That's being echoed back to me. So now my API is mocked up. I got my 2 gets and my post. Now I'm ready to attach a database to the back. How are we feeling with the API?
That's just like the Pirates of the Caribbean. That's not feeding back into
A database.
back. Well, no, there's no database, but yeah, once we actually get that hooked up, then we'll be able to go through.
Yep. So like the prize demo here is I can create a movie, I can create 2 movies, then I can get all my movies, then I can get 1 movie using my endpoints. That's kind of that's what we're driving towards.
Very conveniently similar to Walmart.
What?
What?
No.
No way.
Can't be. No, we don't do
There's
that.
no way this was intentional. You couldn't have planned this. It's too uncanny.
So, so that's great. That's awesome. I'm gonna add a commit here. Added the stubbed endpoints for movies, for getting all/1 movies and creating movies. Cool. Databases. So we have our models, right? Now we need to add our models to our data context and run a migration. Because now we actually need to persist our data somewhere and store it somewhere, and of course that's in a database. So I'm going to head over my database context. And down here at the very bottom, we're going to do prop db set movies. Of course, include that. That was easy. And then over here, I wanted .NET EF migrations, added movie table, table. That's French. I'm going to check out my migrations folder. Hopefully it worked. There we go. Migrations. Yep, adding a movie. It has these columns. ID is my primary key. We have a title, rating, and director. They're all strings. They're all nullable. Yeah. .NET EF database update. And now this is going in and applying all the migrations. So that leads us to kind of assume, and you'd be correct, that we could store up a whole bunch of migrations, and then whenever we have the database update, it'll run all of those migrations in the correct order, if you want to. I typically don't, but that's just me. I like baby steps and playing it safe.
That's assuming you've gotten all the migrations done perfectly.
Yeah, right?
That's runner.
You're like, ah! So now, with that being said, I need to, let's do this first. How do we add stuff to our database? We need our data context. That says, hey, we're going to my database. Inside of my database, I want to go to my movies, and I want to add movies to add. I want to take whatever they're giving it to us, save it to my database, then I want to return what I added. Right? This should look a lot like what we did yesterday, right? Doing up new DB context. We're saying, hey, movies, add this new movie. Then we're saying, hey, save it to my database, actually commit the changes. And then, hey, return the movie as JSON.
So instead of movies, we're gonna be putting animals or safari, so on and so on.
So let's see this in action. So here's what I expect to happen, because remember, we like programming with purpose. I expect I can do a post. I should get back a new movie that has a new ID, and it should also be inside of my database. Those are my two success conditions. New ID, and everything is inside of my database. I'm stalling while Manny writes down. That's stuff that will be in the lecture notes. So if I go here, post Pirates of the Car, that's going to have a rating of PG. It's going to have a year released of 2018. And I think I made that a string too. That doesn't feel right.
I don't think it's in there.
It's not in there. Title, rating, director. That's all. And you know what? Director. That is Mr. 2018, if it matters. So now I'm going to send it. My first condition is there an ID there that's not 0? Hey, ID of 1.
Okay.
So now it's returning to and adding something to the database. Let's head over to PGCLI, movie database, and let's verify that it's there. Yeah, it's probably going to be there because it gave it an ID and everything like that. But I like to make sure, am I adding all my values? Did everything get through? Are we all hunky-dory? Select star from movies. There we go. Pirates of the Car, rated PG by Mr. 2018. So now the other two endpoints are going to follow that exact same pattern. Go to my database, run some sort of query, and return something. So here, var db equals new database context. Var results equals db.movies. And hell, we will .order by using link. We'll do O dot title. And let's return, instead of all this stuff, let's return results. Nope, we got an error here. Our error says a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like, what's going on here? Well, really, what we need to do, we need to call toList on that. So the reason being, I see a little some raised eyebrows in there. What that's doing, what's happening there, is that Entity Framework and Link in general does something called lazy evaluation. So that means that it doesn't evaluate the query that you're writing until it actually needs it. Unless you call something that will actually enumerate that query, actually will run that query. So what do I mean by that? Is that here I have two queries on line 20, right? There's one query on line 20, but it's not getting used until line 21. So without the toList, that query is kind of queued up and waiting on line 20, and it doesn't get run until we get to line 21. So it waits. Does that for a couple of reasons. Maybe the query is not necessary. Maybe we're still building it up dynamically. Maybe we don't want it to run yet. But it's just kind of sitting there waiting until we actually need it. This toList is actually saying, hey, query our database and actually bring me back the result so I can return it. So with the .toList, our query is no longer being run on line 21, it's being run on line 20. I know it seems like a very minor detail right now, but it really isn't.
That is a minor detail. Would the computer be more inclined to return like null because it hasn't processed it yet, or would it just take the computer a little bit longer to process returning results, but then also process?
It's whether it's doing the work on this line or on this line. It also changes the type of what results is. So here we see results is a type of list. If I get rid of this, result is now a type of an I-ordered queryable. And I believe I actually might be able to change this in I-ordered queryable. Nope. Because it's doing crazy stuff there. So it's like, you know what, hey, toList, bam, make you now an I list, and we'll call it a day. This lazy loading, idea of lazy loading, we're going to get into a conversation about scalability and resources and stuff like that, probably during the bonus lecture week or the pop-up lecture week. But for right now, maybe next week. But right now, yeah, this is what we need to do. So let's add a second movie, and then let's call the all endpoint. So what's someone else's favorite movie?
Kingsman.
What?
Kingsman.
Kingsman. Like that? Kingsman. Rated?
R.
R for pirates.
They like to steal.
They do. They do. And this is by Miss 2019. Whenever I send this in, bam, this should be ID 2. ID 2. Now, when I go to change this to a get movies, I should see 2 movies, Pirates of the Car and The Kingsman.
What happened to ET?
ET is not there yet, because it was a hard-coded value. So we're getting rid of all of our hard-coded values for our data-driven application. So this is the very last endpoint we have to do.
E.T.
Get 1. So right now, this is where we have slash something, right? Here's your ET. So here, the same basic idea. We want to go to the database. We want to query the database for the movie with the ID of ID, and we want to return that movie. So now, go to the database, var db equals new database context.
Are you allowed to declare that any higher, like outside of the function, so you don't have to repeat yourself for each?
The
I think
variable.
that's a yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. This is just so we see the pattern.
Yeah.
The end goal is that you're actually declaring it in your startup CS and reusing that. But that's, wait, before we leave, we'll refactor this a little bit just to make you feel a little bit better.
More just wondering, I didn't know like if the controller's function is slightly different where it wasn't happy with any variables outside of it.
Because remember, at the end of the day, it's just a class.
As long as we like add it.
Yep.
Commit before we refactor.
So we'll do this, commit, and then we'll refactor. Because the refactor is actually not that crazy. So I want to query for the movie. Movie equals db.movies dot first or default, or f.id equals the ID. And then capital ID, return movie. Ba-da-da. Pop it over here. What was 2? 2 was Kingsman, right? It's still building. I hope. Yep, info. 2 is Kingsman. If I switch this to 1, we should get the other one, Pirates of the Car. And there we go. This is our API that reflects our plan.
If you go back to the post line where it says the header is 4,
Yep. Those are the response headers.
oh,
These are the metadata that came back with it. So it's when did it happen? What content type is it? JSON. What type of server is it? And the transfer encoding. We talk about the transfer encoding. We see that the server is type Kestrel. Kestrel is the web server that's actually running ASP.NET web applications. So that's just saying, hey, it's a .NET app. 98% of the times you can ignore headers. How are we feeling with this? Demystified a lot of stuff?
So we've seen it all come together.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
This is your magic linchpin. Like, technically, you know everything to do your final projects. Check. I'm done. See y'all in done today.
I feel like I'm seeing behind the curtain in the box.
It is. You'll never look at websites the same way again.
Never look at websites in the first place.
They're all terrible. So let's commit this, then let's refactor. Added DB stuff for API. So as Jordan brought up, we're repeating ourselves a lot here, right? Right? It's terrible, a lot. And like if we have more endpoints, we're gonna be doing a lot more. So because this is just a class, we can give it properties.
Oh.
So let's give it a property. Let's make it a private property, private data context, DB. We'll call it DB, so we don't have to change too much. And then in the constructor, movies controller, we can say, hey, this.db equals new database context. And now we can get rid of all of this duplication. That is 3 lines of code we save. Yes. And that's it. It's not that big of a change, right? Yes, Jordan?
I'm thinking, I'm looking at what we have currently. So you're making your own little,
So why did you make it private?
Best practice, just kind of, it doesn't need to be exposed, so why expose it?
Are you recording? Thank you very much for being helpful.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, they're amazing. So yeah. So for your homework, do this except with safaris.
Cool.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, right? Like,
So we have 30 minutes for you.
yeah. Now, if you want to get adventurous, check out Epic Mode. It's build a React app that's on top of it. But that's not too crazy though, right?
How would you reference? I guess,
There's your URL.
yeah, okay, never mind.
You don't even have to reference the API documentation because that's you. You're the API documentation.
I mean, that is true. So we do have API documentation.
We do have it, yes.
If you get mad at your API documentation,
You sure change
It's your own damn fault. I always, so whenever I do stuff like this, whenever I'm like full stacking, I always pretend to be two separate people. So like,
That's healthy.
okay, I'm front end now, I don't care what's going on in the back end. Now it's like, okay, I'm back end now, I don't care what's going on in the front end. That way, whenever I do get that second person, all of like this stuff is already there. Like the documentation, the ease of use, and stuff like that. Quality of life stuff is there, and it's not just a big old dumpster fire of spaghetti. Cool. Feeling good?
Okay.
Feeling okay. Okay. All right, that's all I got.
I need to call.